Chapter 13 of The Impossibles. The Impossibles by Lawrence M. Janifer and Randall Garrett. Chapter 13. Logically, Malone said, there has to be some way to catch them. He looked around the hotel room as though he expected to find an answer painted in big black letters on the wall. Logically, he said again, and tried to think of what came next. He liked the sound of the word, but that was as far as it went. That's fine, Boyd said. He sat on a chair, staring gloomily at the floor and rubbing the bald spot on his chin with a single, sad, inquisitive finger. There has to be an answer. You're probably right. But what the hell is it? Malone started to answer and then wondered what he had been going to say. He sunk himself in thought. There was a knock at the door. "Who's there?" he called, glad of any relief at all. "It's me," a small voice said. "Dorothea." "Come in," Malone said. The door opened. Dorothea came in, shut the door behind her, and then looked around the room a little awkwardly. "Did you get a good night's sleep?" Malone said. She nodded. "I guess so," she said. "Sure. It was nice of you to get me a room for the night. I guess I was, well, forget it," Malone said grandly. "You were upset and tired, that's all. Hell, in the car on the way back here last night, you fainted." "I did not faint," she said. "Well," Malone said, "you sure look like—" "I was tired," Dorothea said. Malone shrugged. "Okay, you were tired." "You're not mad at me, are you?" she said. "Because I stole your notebook?" "Of course not," Malone said. "I said forget it, didn't I? Sit down and help us out." "Help you?" she said. "That's right," Boyd said. "Help us figure out how to catch this bunch of maniacs before they steal everything in New York." Dorothea said, "Maniacs? And Malone interrupted her in a hurry. "Police Commissioner Furnack has called twice this morning already," he said. "He's screaming about all the burglaries that have been occurring since midnight last night." "Oh," Dorothea said. "You mean the spooks, Mike and the others. They've been stealing again." "They sure have, Miss Foyo," Boyd said. "I guess they're furnishing their new hideout," Malone said, "wherever it is. Only God knows." "And even if he told us," Boyd said, "it wouldn't do us any good. Chase them out of there, and they'd go somewhere else." Malone stood up, fished for his cigarettes, and lit one. "What we need," he said, blowing out smoke, "is some way to trap 'em and hold 'em. And I don't see how we can do either." "After last night," Dorothea said, "I really don't see—" "Wait a minute," Boyd said. "You said trap, didn't you?" He looked slowly and speculatively at Dorothea Fuego. A second passed. "Oh, no, you don't," she said. "Oh, no, not on your life. I'll help catch him if I can, because I know you don't mean to hurt him or the others. But I wouldn't want Mike to know about it. You're not using me as bait in any trap." Boyd looked at Malone, shook his head slowly, and said disconsolately, "Well, it was an idea." He returned his gaze to the floor. The furtive gleam of the half-bottle of bourbon on Malone's dresser caught his eye. He had had it sent up the night before, feeling the need of some medicinal refreshment. Now it winked at him. He ignored it resolutely. "Dorothea," he said. "Yes?" "Dorothea, do you have any idea how far one of those kids can go when he teleports?" "No," Dorothea said. "I really haven't any idea about any of it. Mike tried to teach me once, but I guess I just don't have the talent." "Oh," Malone said. "I wish I could help," Dorothea said. Silence fell and gloom followed it. Time ticked by. The bourbon bottle resumed its seductive winking. There is one thing, Dorothea said suddenly. He did say one thing about it. What? Malone said eagerly. He said you couldn't teleport to someplace you haven't been before. You've got to be able to visualize where you're going. Malone said, It seemed like the right answer. Dorothea's statement was a fact, certainly, but he didn't see how the fact fit in anywhere. He didn't mention anything about distance, and I don't think any of the spooks ever tested it for that, Dorothea said. There probably is a distance limit, Malone said, at least if Dr. O'Connor's theories are right. I just wish I knew what the limit was. Silence fell again. Malone sighed. Dorothea sighed. Boyd sighed, looked around at the others and muttered, "Damn thing's catching." He got up and walked over to the dresser and picked up the bottle of bourbon. "You too?" Malone murmured, but Boyd didn't hear him. "I don't care if it is early in the morning," he said resolutely. "I need a drink. I need something to take the fog out of my head anyhow." He poured himself a shot, held the bottle aloft, and said, "Dorothea? Malone?" The girl shook her head. Malone was tempted, but he put Satan behind him with decision. "No," he said firmly. "The way I feel now, one drink would probably immobilize me." Dorothea chuckled. "You sound just like Mike," she said. "Mike doesn't drink in the morning either?" Malone said. "Of course he doesn't," Boyd said. "Mike is a nice kid, a swell kid." "You keep quiet," Dorothea shot at him. She turned back to Malone. "Mike never drinks at all," she said. "He says it immobilizes him. Just what you said." Somewhere in the black galactic depths of Malone's mind, a very small hot star gulped, took a deep breath, and became a supernova. The light was tremendous. It shed beams over everything, beams of a positively supernal brilliance. And in the all-pervasive brightness of that single inner light, bits of data began to fall into place with all the precision of aerial bombs, each falling neatly and exactly into its own little predetermined bomb crater. It was beautiful. It was magnificent. Malone felt all choked up. None of the silent spooks drank. He remembered Kettleman telling him that. And the Queen never touched the stuff either. "What's wrong?" Boyd said. "Malone, you look green." "I feel green," Malone said. "I feel like newly sprung grass. I feel as if I had just hatched out of something. I feel wonderful." "It's the strain," Boyd said. "That's what it is, strain. You've cracked at last." Malone ignored him. "Tell me," he said to Dorothea with elaborate casualness, "when your brother says that, what does he mean?" "What?" she said. "Oh, I don't know. She stopped and her eyes widened. "You don't think that?" "I don't know," Malone said, "but we can sure as hell find out." Dorothea blinked. "What can you do?" she said. "I mean, to find out. You can't force them to drink or anything, can you?" "No," Malone said, "I can't do that. But it does give me an idea." Boyd held his untasted drink in his hand, staring at Malone and the girl. "What are you two talking about?" he said. "Or is this the special Captain Midnight code? I left my code ring at home this week." "Boyd," Malone snapped, "get on the phone." "Are you sure it'll hold me?" Boyd said. "I want you to call Dr. O'Connor at Yucca Flats," Malone said. "Shut up and listen." There was silence. Finally, Boyd said, "I don't hear anything." "Never mind," Malone said. "I mean, listen to me. I know it's pretty early out where O'Connor is, but that doesn't matter now. Wake him up. Wake everybody up for all I care." "Malone," Boyd said carefully, "are you sure you haven't gone nuts?" Malone grinned cheerfully. No, he said. Are you? Now listen. Find out what effect drugs have on psionic abilities. Drugs? Boyd said, and then his eyes lit up. My God, he said. We might have something at that. Get the Queen up, too, Malone said. Ask her the same question. I hope we do have something. So do I, Dorothea said. And if we get the information we're hoping to get, I want Her Majesty on the first plane to New York, Malone said. I don't care what strings you have to pull to get that done. Call Burris if you have to. It'll be worth it. Malone paused. Hell, he said, call him anyway and tell him what's happened. But get the Queen here. Right, Boyd said. He dove for the phone and started dialing. Suddenly, he looked around. Hey, he yelled, where are you going? Malone, one hand on the door, turned. Down to see Fernac, he said. I've got to make some arrangements. I'm betting we're right, Tom. He charged out the door, slamming it. A second passed and it opened again. Malone's head popped back in. Dorothea, he said. When Tom gets off the phone, call your mother. Tell her you're going to be away for a day or two. 2 at the most. And she's not to worry. We'll need you and her, too, to talk to Mike when the time comes. So stick around. Then he was gone. 12 hours later, Kenneth J. Malone was sitting quietly in a small room at the rear of a sporting goods store on Upper Madison Avenue, trying to remain calm and hoping that the finest, most beautiful hunch he had ever had in his life was going to pay off. With him were Boyd and 2 agents from the 69th Street office. They were sitting quietly too, but there was a sense of enormous excitement in the air. Malone wanted to get up and walk around, but he didn't dare. He clamped his hands in his lap and sat tight. They waited in silence, not daring to talk. There was no sound except for the faint whoosh of their breathing through the gas masks they were wearing, and the muffled hiss from a tank nearby. There was no reason why the plan shouldn't work, Malone told himself. It looked foolproof, but he didn't believe it would work. This was the time, he assured himself, that his luck ran out. He had been lucky for too long, and now the wheel was going to turn, and he'd be lost. All he could do was wait for it and hope. Her Majesty had said definitely that this would be the place the spooks would hit tonight. She had no doubts about it. And Malone couldn't think of a single reason why she might be wrong. But maybe he'd gotten the address mixed up. Maybe the spooks were somewhere else right now, robbing what they pleased, safe from capture. His hunch about drugs had been correct, or at least everybody had said it was correct. Dr. O'Connor had assured Boyd that the deleterious effects of drugs on psionic abilities had been known ever since the early days of Dr. Rhine's pioneering work, more than 20 years before. And good Queen Bess had admitted the same thing. She never drank, she said, because on the one occasion when she had tried it, she had lost her telepathic ability. And, my goodness, it was just like going blind. Burris had had to put on the pressure, but it had worked. The Queen had been flown to New York under psychiatric guard just as soon as possible after Boyd's phone call, and she had been able to pick up Mike Fueo without any trouble at all as soon as she was within the same city and close enough to him. It doesn't do much good to know where a teleporter is, Malone thought, but it's extremely handy to know where he's going to be. And if you also know what he plans to do when he gets where he's going, you've got an absolute lead pipe cinch to work with. The Queen had provided that lead pipe cinch. Reading Mike's mind, she had told Malone that he planned to raid the sporting goods store with the rest of the spooks that night. Lucky again, Malone thought. He might have had to wait 2 or 3 days before the spooks set up a robbery. But of course, he might just be riding for some kind of horrible, unforeseen fall. The main part of the sporting goods store was fairly well lit, even at night, though it was by no means brightly illuminated. There were show window lights on, and the street lamp from outside cast a nice glow. But the back room was dark, and the 4 men there were well concealed. A curtain closed the room off, and Malone watched the front of the store through a narrow opening in it. He stared through it until his eyes ached, afraid to blink in case he missed the appearance of the spooks. Everything had to go off just right, precisely on schedule. And it was going to happen any minute, he told himself nervously. In just a few minutes, everything would be over. Malone held his breath. Then he saw the figure walk slowly by the glass front of the shop, looking in with elaborate casualness. He was casing the joint, making sure there were none left in it. Mike Fueo. Malone tried to breathe and couldn't. Seconds ticked by. And then, almost magically, they appeared. 8 of them, almost simultaneously, in the center of the room. Mike Fueo spoke in a low, controlled voice. "Okay now," he said. "Let's move fast. And that was all he said. The odorless anesthetic gas that filled the room had its sudden effect. Mike Fueo dropped out like a light. The other 7 followed him within seconds. Ramon Ochervez, the tallest of them, stayed on his feet a little longer than the rest, obviously trying with all his strength to teleport himself out of danger, but the effects of the fast-moving gas had already been felt. He was, literally, too stunned to move. He too slumped to the floor. For a second after that, none of the men in the rear room moved. Then Malone said, "All right, boys, let's get them out of here. They can't stay too long in this atmosphere." The men started forward into the front room toward the still bodies. "Boyd," Malone said, "get out front and wave the ambulance over here. I'll get the air conditioners working and stop the gas." He reached down and turned off the valve on the gently hissing tank of anesthetic gas that sat on the floor near him. "You guys get the kids," he said. "And let's make it fast, okay?" End of chapter 13. Read by Paul Hampton.